It is such an unbelievably glorious May day here in the Northwest, so there was no way that I couldn't jump on and do a video in the sunshine. But I haven't been here for a hot minute, and I've read a lot of books this year, so I thought it would be fun to go into the 10 best books that I've read so far this year. I'm going to go and grab a brew, and then we're going to get straight into it. So these are my top 10 books, sort of up until this point, and obviously we're not even halfway done with the year yet, and these could change dramatically by the end of the year, especially if my reading keeps going the way that it has been going, because I just feel like I've read so many good books. So we're going to start at number 10, and then we are going to work our way up to my favourite book of the year so far, which hasn't changed since January yet. So in 10th place we have The Long Game by Rachel Reed. This is the 6th book in the Game Changers series, and I binged all of the books before I watched the series. The series had already been out a month by the time I got to it. And this is the second part of Ilya and Shane's story, and I just thought this was so much better than Heated Rivalry. There was something about the representation in this, especially when it came to Ilya's mental health, that really stuck with me. It was still angsty and sexy and full of yearning and just beautiful. But I just really liked that conversation because, of course, not only being raised in the culture that he was raised in, but also being a part of the extremely homophobic and toxic masculine energy that is involved in the NHL is going to have a mental effect on a person, and that's not always addressed in these hockey romances. So to have a character who's going through that and is going through therapy and trying to figure out his feelings and trying to do it in a really healthy way, and also Shane kind of being oblivious to this for a while and slowly figuring it out, I just think was handled with such care, and it was so beautiful. And it's just a story that's really stuck with me. And then we have in 9th place, Role Model, which is in the same series. This is book number 5. And this one is following Troy, who has been quite a toxic character throughout the series. And I think the reason, again, that I liked this one is it had a character who was not a good person and has come to realize that they were not a good person due to the circumstances around him. And instead of brushing it off and being like, I was always a good person deep down, I just didn't know how to speak up or speak out, and brushing it under the rug, instead of all of that, we have a character who really works on themselves, who really is the kind of person who takes a step back and go, no, I was this terrible person who thought terrible things and did terrible things that I had now come to realize is wrong. And I'm going to genuinely put the work in. And not only am I genuinely going to put the work in to improve myself, but I'm going to do something about it to try and make up for the fact that I was who I was. And that is such a difficult conversation to have, especially in the red pill society that we live in today. I think to be able to approach that subject with care and honesty is just fantastic. And it was very well done. And I really loved it. I loved that side of it. In 8th place, we have the 3rd book in the Descent to Darkness series by Andy Darcy Theo. This is The Shadows That Find Us, and this was my favourite book in his series so far. So this is mid to upper YA. We're focusing on elemental magic and a group of very broken teenagers who have a lot of responsibility on their shoulders. And it has all of the things that we love in a fantasy. It has the big battles, and it has the magical powers and the found family and the touch of romance. But I feel like the heavy focus in this book is the individual character's mental health. And this one focuses very much on Kaylee. And I don't think I've ever related to a character so much in my life. There was a particular scene in this book that really gripped me, and I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to give spoilers. But there was a particular scene that actually happened in my real life to a point, and I just cannot get it out of my head. I remember speaking to the author. I went to his book launch and I spoke to the author, and I was like, it genuinely felt like you stepped in my brain, you picked out a memory and put it in your book. And I read that chapter and I had to put it down and walk away for a couple of days and then come back and finish the book. But it was just so heartbreaking. And I feel like what made it even more heartbreaking is that it was dealt with very honestly. The feelings that that character felt after that event happened were so raw and honest and true that I just think about it all of the time. In 7th place, we have The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong. Oh, you guys, I specifically remember finishing this book and just being in tears. And I remember I was listening to the audiobook because I'd been immersive reading it, but I was on a journey. So I was at London Euston Station waiting for my train with my audiobook in, sobbing in that little square that's outside, absolutely streaming full of tears to the point where somebody actually came up and asked if I was okay. It was just beautiful. Ocean has this way of writing. It's a very unique writing style, but it's like this slow build of emotion. At the very beginning, it takes you a minute maybe to come invested, but then once you're invested with your entire soul and your entire being. Now, I'm actually going to meet the author this week in Manchester, and I'm so incredibly excited to just tell him how wonderful I think he is. But it's definitely one I would recommend. It was heartbreaking and it was tragic and it was beautiful all at the same time. Very heavy, but it is totally worth that journey that you go on with it. And then in 6th place, me alongside millions of others finally got round to reading Project Hail Mary because of the movie coming out. Now, I did want to read the book before I watched the movie, so that's exactly what I did. And everybody had said that the audiobook was elite, so the audiobook is how I did it. And I cannot tell you how much I love this book. I loved this book so much that I went and got Rocky tattooed a month after the movie came out, because I have never loved a character so much, like ever. It was so funny because yes, it's sciencey and yes, it's a space odyssey and it's got all of these familiar feelings that you've had from these type of books and movies before, but there was just something incredibly human about it, which is interesting considering the second main character is an alien. But it was glorious. And you had this main male character who was so incredibly flawed. He wasn't that big hero type that goes out in space and I'm going to sacrifice myself to save the world. He was an everyday school teacher who was petrified. And at times he was a coward and at times he was selfish, and it didn't make him any less of a person. It just made him a more real person and a more relatable person, I think. The book, I still think, was better than the movie. However, the movie, so worth the watch. I could watch it a million times over. I think they absolutely did it justice. It's one of the best adaptations I've ever seen. But I just don't think I'll ever forget this book. And I'm so mad at myself that I put it off for as long as I did. In 5th place, we have A Queen Crowned in Flames. This is the second book in a duology. The first one was A Fate Forged in Fire. It is out this week. I think it might even be out tomorrow. It's definitely out this week as of when I'm filming this. And it was phenomenal. It was fantastic. There were twists, there were turns. It was everything you wanted in a fantasy sequel. I am completely obsessed with it. It's got everything. It's the Scottish Celtic book of your dreams. It's so visual, and you've got this fiery, red-headed main character and this chosen one trope that doesn't feel like a repeat of every other one that you've kind of read in the past. She's an extremely flawed character and has these people around her that some of you are rooting for and some you can't stand. And then there was this moment in the book where I was just like, no, why did you do that? But it worked so well for the story. And this is going to be, so this is the first duology in an interconnected series of duologies. And the second duology has now been confirmed. She has a book deal for this and she is either writing it or wherever she is in her process. Phenomenal. Loved every single second and really recommend it. And it's perfect for you guys now because this is now a completed duology. So you can go out there and binge it back to back and do not have to wait as long as I did for the sequel. In 4th place, we have Andromeda by E.S. McLeod. E.S. McLeod is also known as Ella McLeod. She wrote 2 of my favorite YA books, And this is her adult debut, and it is a mythology retelling of the story of Andromeda. Now, when I went into this, I didn't know much about it. And I did do a little bit of a research on Andromeda before reading the book. And it's surprising how little information there is. There's just this, she's almost like a subplot in somebody's story. And what Ella's done is phenomenal. She's given her a voice and she's created this incredibly complex, emotional story that really gives that character a voice. And she plays about with other characters and portrays them in this way that they still feel familiar. You've got Medusa in this, so they still feel familiar, these characters, but she breathes this fresh air into them. I really slowly consumed this. I annotated it and tabbed it, and I think it's her best work yet. And I cannot wait to see where else she goes in her adult writing. Phenomenal. Staying in the same realm, we have Sarah Elarifi's Cleopatra coming in at third place. I sobbed. This was fantastic. Now, unlike Andromeda, I did know a lot about Cleopatra. I have an obsession with Cleopatra ever since I was young. I watched everything that there was about her, fiction and fact, documentaries and movies and retellings and Shakespeare and all of that stuff. And I just think she was always such a fascinating character because she was so powerful and so clever in a time where women weren't really permitted to be so. And she was ruling this entire country and scheming and plotting and strategizing. And she was just incredible. And the way that this book is written is very break the fourth wall. So it's sort of like a journal, but she's talking to you. Cleopatra is constantly talking to the reader. And I love it so much because there's these little breaks in the story where she'll be telling us something that happened, and then she will break and refer it and relate it to something that is very relevant in our modern world today. And it kind of all makes sense when it finishes. But it was just, I have not stopped thinking about it since I finished it. And I just, I need everyone to read it. And I feel like it's one of those that should have blown up. And I think it has in certain circles on the internet, but I need more people to read it. I definitely need more people to read it because I just constantly want to talk about this book and talk about Cleopatra as a character. In second place, we have a book that's not even out yet. This is a book I read very recently, and this is B. Fitzgerald's new book. And no, it's not a Greek mythology telling. It's like a thrillery, expose, Hollywood, litfic, weird. It breaks so many genre rules, but in the best way possible. And we're basically following two rival actresses, and we follow their journey from drama school right up until where they are now, really in the spotlight of Hollywood and the elite. And I have never been so invested in awful people in my entire life. And an author is phenomenal when they can take a character who is objectively terrible and you are rooting for them anyway. You love them anyway. I just adored them. I adored their chemistry and their angst and their anger and their pettiness. And it was so good, you guys. And I cannot wait for it to be out in the world. Everybody's reading it. Phenomenal. So that comes in currently at number 2, but I do keep switching places with my number 1 spot. So I don't know where it's going to end up at the end of the year, but my number 1 spot currently goes to a stage set for Villain by Shannon J. Span. And this one was one of the first books I read this year, and I've not been able to stop thinking about it. It was twisty and it was different, and even down to the structure of the book, because we're set in an alternate reality where we have this traveling cursed playhouse that pops up, and you have and the players are basically these replacements for gods, and they are feared and revered all at the same time by the world around them. And it was so different and it was so unusual. And I loved it. I ate it up. I love anything that feels unique. I could say, yes, it's a little bit like Caravel because you've got almost these trial game-like things going on. Or It's got a essence of Greek mythology in there and all of these things. Yes, I could probably try and compare it to other books, but nothing really is the same as this. And it had a twist that had me going for ages. It has this almost open-ended world, so it feels done, but it's also feels like there could be more. It could go either way. This could be a standalone forever and I would be okay with that, or she could do an entire series in this world and I would be totally okay with that too. But what makes this even more magical is it's a debut. I've read some good debuts, but this was next level. Incredible. Obsessed, cannot stop thinking about it. I love it so much. So that is where my current top 10 is at. This is still subject to change halfway through the year, and I'm actually currently reading a book that I'm loving so much. I'm reading The Midnight Train by Matt Haig. I will be surprised if that doesn't make this list, but that is where we're at. I'm going to try so hard to not leave it so long before I come and give you guys a long form video. I'm trying to get better at posting shorts because I do a lot of TikTok anyway. TikTok is where I post the majority of stuff. So why not just repurpose that for you guys here that don't maybe necessarily enjoy TikTok? Yeah, I'm trying to get better with that. And all of the books that I have spoken about in this video today, I have listed affiliate links for those in the caption. They are clearly labeled, and if you buy through any of those links, I will earn a small commission, but at no cost to you guys. So please do check those out if any take your fancy. I've also included a short blurb for each book in the caption in case you want more details on what the book is actually about, because this has definitely been all about vibes and feelings, and I'm not mad at that. I hope you all are enjoying the glorious sunshine that is in the UK right now, and I'll be back very, very soon.